beginner's yoga. We'll warm up with a little bit of joint mobility. We'll warm up with a couple of deep stretches, front, back, left, right, and then we'll just keep warming up with the sun salutations and get into the practice. And we'll go for about 1 hour today. So let's begin. Feet about hip width apart. This is just going to be a little bit of basic joint mobility. Loosen up the neck, shoulder, and hips. Keep your teeth closed, please. Begin breathing in and out through your nose. And let's start looking left and right. I've been asked, what's the difference between joint mobility and stretching? It's a good question. Joint mobility is as it sounds. We are trying to mobilize the joints. In this case, by looking left and right, we're trying to mobilize really high up on the neck. We have the atlas and the axis bones, C1 and C2. And we're trying to free up the skull and free up the cervical vertebrae, the neck bones. We may or may not get a stretch as a side effect because the opposing muscle groups are being used. When you turn your head one way, one set of muscles contract, the other set of muscles relax. When you turn your head the other way, one set of muscles contracts, the other set of muscles relax. So you may get some flexibility, but the goal is mobility. Face forward, please. Bring your hands out to a T. And we'll do the corkscrews, the internal and external rotation of the shoulders. We're trying to rotate the straight, long arm bone. Is called the humerus. We're trying to roll the humerus around forward and backward. We want it to roll around inside of the shoulder joint or the shoulder girdle. Similar in scope to the neck rotations, one set of muscles will contract and pull the shoulder into internal rotation. The opposing muscle groups stretch. When we roll the arm backwards or external rotation, the external rotators tighten and the internal rotators loosen. So if we really get into some deep end ranges of motion, we can strengthen and balance and lengthen opposing muscle groups, and that can help improve mobility, function, lessen pain, all kinds of stuff. Good. Let's bring our hands to our hips. Take our feet wide. We're going to do a couple different things here. I want to break it down just a little bit. First, we're just going to go side to side. It's called lateral. With your hands on your hips, just push your hips to one side. Now, in this case, if you're facing me, your hips are going to your right. And your left leg, hopefully you'll start to feel a little stretch on the inside seam of your left thigh. You take your left hand and kind of push into where your leg meets your pelvis. There's a little dent there, for lack of a better word. If you kind of press into that, hopefully you feel just a mild stretch on your inner thigh. You come back the other way. You push just a little bit. Push a little bit into that dent, and you'll feel a little stretch on your inner thigh. Now also notice that hopefully you're keeping your spine organized, you're keeping your ribs organized. You're not flopping over with your torso, you're staying rigid. So we go rigid side to side, lateral. Trying to feel a little bit of stretch on that inner thigh, but also keeping the rib cage and the spine organized. You can go really slowly if you need to. Another thing we're trying to extract here is the hips. Notice it's the hips that kind of swing to one side, the hips that swing to the other side. Your hips are shifting laterally. There's a lateral shift, side to side. Your hips go. Now we're going to recall this when it's time for triangle pose. Because a triangle pose is that lateral shift, keeping the ribs and the spine organized, and a lateral shift. That's what gets us into triangle. Not so much bending the ribs or the spine. Not too much. Not too much. Okay. Now we'll try to do circles. Now as you're doing the circles, really think about that lateral flexion. Hands to your hips. Push your hips forward. That's called an anterior shift. Lateral, posterior, lateral, anterior shift. To the best of your ability. It's, think of scraping out the cake batter of the bowl. So your hips are the silicone spatula, and your range of motion is the batter that's stuck on the bowl. You're really trying to get all the batter out. Get that one more cupcake into that tray. Breathe. In and out through your nose. Let's come back the other way. You can probably hear my right foot. It clicks every now and then. Just a couple more. Good. And then just back to center. Nice and easy. Good. So hopefully we feel mobilized through the neck, shoulders, and hips. The 5 most mobile joints in the body. Now, let's try some stretching. So the stretching is really intended for the soft tissue, whereas the joint mobility is intended more for the joints, right? Joint mobility. Stretching is, it's not really the right word, but we're trying to loosen up. We're trying to innervate the nerves and create blood flow and moisturize all the connective tissues through holding static stretches. So let's take our feet wide, a little bit wide. Side stretch. So we're going to try to stretch the side seams of the body. If it's too uncomfortable to bring your arm up overhead, just keep your hands by your side. If you can, bring your left arm up, grab on with your right hand. Inhale. Tone up your legs. Tone up your muscles. As you exhale, bend to your left. Excuse me, I beg your pardon. You're bending to your right. Breathe. The key to stretching safely is trying not to stretch. So although I'm pulling with my right arm, I'm resisting with my left arm. And we're trying to feel a stretch pretty much from the left armpit all the way down the side. Breathe, but stay toned. That's the key. That way you will strengthen as you lengthen. One more inhale. One more exhale. Use your glutes and drive your hips to the center. Good. We'll try the other side. If possible, bring your right arm up. Bring your left arm up. Grab on to your right wrist. Inhale. Tone your body and hinge to the opposite side. Now in this case, because we're stretching, we are getting a little bit of lateral flexion through the rib cage. Spine is laterally flexing a little bit because we're trying to get into all these little nooks and crannies. These are your breathing muscles, the intercostals. You also have the serratus interior. Steady breathing, keep toned. 3, 2, stay toned. 1, come up and drop your hands. Good. So that more or less stretches the outside seam of the body. Now the back seam of the body will basically, it'll be a straight-legged rearward shift. The key is just make sure nothing hurts. Only go so far as you can tolerate, and you can keep breathing without sputtering, without skipping, without choking. Just real smooth inhale, real smooth exhale. Hands to the front of your thighs. Now keep your legs straight this time. Lock your legs straight. Inhale. As you exhale, keep your chest up and push your butt back. Your feet stay flat on the ground, and the weight is getting more and more and more into your heels. But keep your feet flat. Keep your legs straight and keep your chest lifted. A lot of stuff going on here, but we put all those safety mechanisms in place to keep you safe. So you want to tone your legs. It's as if you're stretching and trying not to stretch at the same time. So keep the legs toned. Keep the chest lifted. Don't worry about how far you go. Instead, just focus on your tolerance for the stretching on the back side of your body. One more big inhale. One more big exhale. And stand straight up. Good. So that should affect pretty much the entire back side of your body. And now we try to affect pretty much the entire front side of the body, the anterior chain. So again, tone your legs. Tuck your pelvis under. And we're going to push, it's called an anterior shift. Shift your weight forward into your toes. It's going to look a little weird, but it'll make sense. So your legs should be toned. Posterior pelvic tilt. You should feel a little bit of stretch through your hip flexors. Now make two fists, and you can either put them onto your back pockets, or you can put them up a little higher into your low back, whatever is working for you. Keep shifting your weight into your toes. Keep your legs straight, and now lift your chest. Lift your chest and push your chest forward. Use your fists to help push everything forward. If we're doing this correctly, you will only feel a stretch on the front side of your body. You should not feel any compression or pinching or otherwise unpleasantness on the back side of your body. The back side of your body really shouldn't feel much of anything except your fists pushing into your seat. Keep breathing. Shoulders down, shoulder blades towards your spine. Big inhale. Big exhale. Back to standing position. Good. Catch your breath. Turn and face me if that applies. And now we'll start with mountain pose, breathing mountain pose, etc. And we'll start to build the practice. Double check and correct your feet. If you want to, you can bring your toes right up to the long end of your mat, and then you can see a straight line. Get your toes lined up to the best of your ability. Spread your toes out. Feet about hip width apart. Hip width is about the side of your fist. Your fist should more or less be able to fit between your hands. If you put your fist, I guess, widthwise, index knuckle to the pinky knuckle, your feet should fit right around there. Toned legs, posterior pelvic tilt. Pull your shoulder blades down. Squeeze your shoulder blades towards your spine. Make your arms straight, please. Hands are going to face your legs. Big breath in. Big breath out. Try to find more and more things to tone. Shoulders down, shoulder blades towards your spine. Posterior pelvic tilt. Try to distribute the weight evenly, left and right, front and back. One more inhale. One more exhale. Breathing mountain pose. As you inhale, bring your arms straight up overhead. Exhale, pause. Turn your hands away. And you bring your hands back to starting position. That's one long exhale. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, pronate your hands. Back to starting position. Inhale, arms up. Pronate. Exhale. Try to make everything as smooth as possible. Try to make the pauses as seamless as possible. Really kind of short. Inhale. Exhale. Remember when we talked about scraping the batter out of the cupcake mix? The cupcake batter out of the bowl? Do that here. Reach your fingertips down. Reach your fingertips out and up. Reach your fingertips out and wide. 3 more. Inhale. Exhale. Reach. Reach, 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 reach. Reach down. Inhale. Reach forward and up. Exhale. Reach out and wide. Reach down. Last one. Inhale. Exhale. Find mountain pose. Tighten it up. Big inhale. Big exhale. And release. Good. I'm going to turn sideways so we can see the technique. You don't have to turn sideways if you don't want to. It's really just so hopefully you can see my spine extend, posterior pelvic tilt, etc. We'll do a couple of sun salutations. Double check and correct your feet. Spread your toes out wide. Feet about hip width apart, legs toned, posterior pelvic tilt, arms by your side. Mountain pose. Shoulders down, shoulder blades towards your spine. Inhale. Exhale. On your next inhale, bring your arms out and up. 2 actions. Extended arms, mountain pose. Arms as straight as possible. Fingertips working toward the ceiling. Shoulder blades working down and toward the spine. Big breath in. Big breath out. Exhale. Hands come through heart center. Touch the front of your thighs. Bend your knees. Lift your chest. Rearward shift. And breathe. During the stretching, we straightened our legs for the rearward shift. During the practice, we bend our knees slightly. Bending your knees slightly will give you greater access to extending and contracting your spinal muscles. When you contract and tone your spinal muscles, your posture improves, your breathing improves, your brain function improves. Tone your legs. Stand straight up. Directly into mountain pose. Big inhale. Big exhale. On your next inhale, arms come straight up overhead. Extended arms, mountain pose. Even if your arms feel like they have stopped moving, keep reaching up, keep reaching back, keep reaching down, and keep reaching toward the spine. Keep it active. Work your muscles here. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Hands come through heart center. Touch the front of your thighs. Bend your knees slightly. Try to keep your chest up. Rearward shift. The weight is a little bit in your heels, but your toes, your feet should be flat on the ground. Look to tone the spinal erector muscles, both sides of your spine, left and right, up and down. One more inhale. Exhale. Straight into mountain pose. Double check everything. Shoulders, legs, arms, hips. Big inhale. Big exhale. Last one. Inhale, arms up overhead. 3, 2, 1. Exhale, hands come through heart center. Keep breathing. Bend your knees slightly, lift your chest. 3, 2, 1. Directly back to mountain pose. 3, 2, 1. And gently release. Good. Let's shake ourselves loose a little bit. All those muscle contractions, they can make us tighter. That's not necessarily bad because we need a certain amount of tension to hold us upright and to stay toned. But if we get too tense, then we walk around stiff and mobile. The shaking is, as it sounds, just flop your hands around, flop your legs around, flop your feet around. And that just helps get rid of any residual tension through the muscles. Good. Let's get mountain pose one more time. Check your feet, toes, legs, posterior pelvic tilt, shoulders down, shoulder blades towards your spine. Big breath in. Big breath out. And release. Let's take our feet wide, please. As wide as you can comfortably. The general rule of thumb, if all things are equal, if you bring your hands out to a T and you bend your wrist, it's called flexion. You flex your wrists. Where your fingers are pointing, that's more or less where your feet should be. More or less. This is a standard setup by BKS Iyengar. But if this is too wide, then don't worry too much. As wide as you can comfortably, but don't be afraid to nudge your abilities just a little bit. Sometimes a half a centimeter makes a huge difference. With your legs straight, make your arms straight and touch the front of your thighs, please. Inhale. As you exhale, bend your knees just a little bit. Your knees are trying to be a little bit buoyant. You should be able to kind of bounce up and down freely. Lift your chest. Push your chest out. Lift your tailbone. Keep your spine extended. Keep your muscles toned. Push your hips straight back. And we get into a wide-legged rearward shift. Breathe. This is going to help us when we get to triangle pose. It'll help us when we get to warrior two, etc. While you're here, just keep working on lifting your chest up, pushing your chest out. And that's going to tone your entire back bones, back muscles, everything behind you. It's called the posterior chain. One more inhale. Tone your legs. Exhale, stand straight up. Tuck your pelvis under, shoulders down, shoulder blades together. Big breath in. Big breath out. And release. Now I caught myself. I'm a little stagger stepped. So I'm coming out of this a little bit. You can also if you like. And I'm bringing my toes to the long end of the yoga mat. My big toes at least. I want to see that I want to see and make sure that I'm lined up pretty well. Second time. Double check and correct your stance if you want to. You don't have to. Hands touch the front of your thighs. Big breath in. Big breath out. Bend your knees just a tiny, tiny little bit and lift your chest a lot. Really try to get, your diaphragm muscle is here under your ribs. Try to get that diaphragm muscle out and open. Lift your chest, lift your ribs, lift your tailbone. Keep all that stuff tight and locked and push your hips straight back. And just double check your knees. You should still be kind of bouncy. Chest lifting. Steady breathing. 3. Try to stay toned. 2. 1. Keep your legs toned. Straighten your legs. Tuck your pelvis under. Shoulders down. Shoulder blades toward your spine. Big breath in. Big breath out. Good. And we'll toe heel our feet together. If you're able to toe heel your feet together, that's just a little bit of extra hip mobility. But you have to make sure you're moving your femur bone. If you do it, we'll do it again in class, I'm sure. If you opt to do it, you should see everything turning. Kneecaps, feet, shins, everything should turn. And that's how you're going to get into some extra hip mobility. Now next up is going to be the Flamingo Pose. We really want to wake up our feet. We'll do one variation of the Flamingo Pose, and we'll bring that experience plus the experience from the wide-legged rearward shift into the other lateral poses, triangle, etc. Flamingo Pose, first variation. Just bring your feet together, please, and spread your toes out wide. Let your arms hang loose. Put all the weight into your right leg. Bend your left knee and try to hide your left foot. And breathe. Do your best to keep your knees and your thighs together. Don't let your knees and your thighs drift apart if you can help it. And just let your right foot freak out. It's going to overbalance, it's going to underbalance, it's going to overcorrect, undercorrect. Hang in there and breathe. 3, 2, 1. Both feet down, both hands down. Now one thing about the Flamingo Pose, and this is not a hard and fast rule. It's something that has helped me improve my balance this past month or so. Make sure that you're not death gripping with your toes while you're doing the flamingo. Your toes might press in and your toes may turn white, but or they might turn orange or whatever color they turn, but they shouldn't crinkle up if you can help it. Okay? So let's try flamingo other side. Feet together, arms loose. Shift the weight into your left leg. Bend your right knee and hide your right foot. Breathe. It may be tricky, but if you're able, look down at your foot and just make sure your toes are more or less spread out, and make sure your toes are more or less the length of your toes, right? You shouldn't look down and see that your toes are half their size because you're death gripping the mat. Try not to, at least, because there'll be more carryover when we do the lateral poses, keeping your feet relaxed, etc. One more inhale. Exhale, both feet down, both hands down. Good. Now we're going to try to take everything up to this point. Everything. The joint mobility, the stretches, the wide-legged rearward shift, the flamingo. We want to put it all into our lateral stance yoga poses. Triangle, warrior two, side angle. First, triangle. Take your feet white, please. Similar in scope to the wide-legged rearward shift, if you can. If it's within your ability, get your feet more or less under your fingertips, more or less. If it's impossible or causes you pain, don't do it. Your rear leg will turn in about 30 degrees. Front leg turns out about 90 degrees. Hands to your hips. Now, just like we did in the warm-up, Remember when we shifted our hips to one side? We do that here. Inhale. As you exhale, shift your hips to your left. You're trying to go real deep. If your right hand is on your right hip, your right hand should almost be getting crushed by your torso, just simply from pressing deep into this front hinge point. Right hand touches the right leg, left hand up to a T. Breathe. Steady breathing. See if you can do some external rotation on that top arm. Turn your elbow pit behind you. Keep that elbow pit turning behind you, and then turn your hand forward. So you get sort of a rinsing effect up and down your top arm. Steady breathing here. 3, think about your feet. Really work your feet. 2, 1, drive your hips to your right, hands to a T, and drop your arms. Good. And we'll turn our legs to the opposite side. Before you move, just double check. Look down. Make sure your toes are spread out wide. Don't let your toes turn into fists and grip the life out of your yoga mat. They should be spread out. Feet strong, legs strong, hands to your hips. Inhale. Just like we did in the warm-up. Exhale. Drive your hip to your right. You keep your ribs and your spine organized. You're trying to move deeply in the hinge point of your front leg. When you feel stuck, plant your front arm, top arm comes up to a T, and breathe. See if you can find external rotation on that top arm. Lock it in, and then pronate your top hand. So you get sort of a ringing effect from your top hand down to your top shoulder. Breathe here. 3, concentrate on your feet. 2, 1, tone every muscle in your body. Drive your hips to your left, hands to a T, drop your arms. Good. Let's toe heel our feet together. So look down, make sure your knees turn out, knees turn in, knees turn out, knees turn in. Shake yourself loose a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm working kind of hard today, getting deeper into those contractions. I hope you are too. And you may feel that as you get into those deep contractions, that really you start to feel the burn. You start to feel fatigued, which is normal. So we take a break, shake off any of that excess tension, recover a little bit, then we take the next pose to the same high level. When you're ready, we'll take our feet wide. Even here, as you're setting up your feet, think about Flamingo Pose. Toes spread, feet flat, feet and toes working overtime. Your rear leg will point straight forward interiorly. Opposite leg will turn out 90 degrees. Hands to your hips. Remember, just like we did in the warm-up, move your hips around. Hopefully, you've got some wiggle room here. If you're so super tight that you can't move your hips, you might need to bring your feet in a little closer. Inhale. Exhale. Bend your front leg as little or as much as you like. Both hands should be pressing into creases here, dents. Where your femur bone meets your pelvis, there should be little dents there. As upright as possible. Inhale, bring your arms up. Turn your hands away. Exhale, hands to a T. We got Warrior 2. If you want to, for fun, practice your Egyptian arms here, your shoulder corkscrews. See if you've got some wiggle room here. And then when you free up some space, come back into Warrior 2. Shoulders down, shoulder blades towards your spine. Breathe deeply here. 3, 2, 1. Straighten your front leg and drop your arms. Good. Turn your rear leg, let it face forward. Opposite leg turns out 90 degrees. Hands to your hips. Inhale. Exhale. Bend your front leg a little or a lot. Double check and correct your feet. Look at your feet. Look at your toes. They should be the same length as when they're relaxed. You shouldn't lose length in your toes because you're death gripping. Rear leg as straight as possible. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to a T. Warrior two. Steady breathing. If you want to do your internal and external rotations, go ahead and do that. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Just see if you free up any space. If you do, take that space up with some contractions. One more inhale. Exhale, straighten your front leg. Drop your arms. Good. Toe heel your feet together or waddle your feet together. Doesn't matter. It's nice and easy. Catch your breath. Shake out your limbs. You may notice that you're getting deeper into the poses, whether your range of motion has changed, whether you're able to contract and find more muscles, or maybe just even psychologically, you're going to a deeper level, and that's good. Just be mindful that you can get into and out of the poses safely, especially if you're dealing with a new range of motion. Let's take our feet wide one last time. Double check and correct your feet. This time your rear leg will point forward. Opposite leg turns out 90 degrees, hands to your hips. Inhale. As you exhale, bend your front leg as little or as much as you like. What matters is keeping your front knee over your front ankle bone and keeping your hips level. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to a T. Inhale. Exhale, reach over your front thigh. When you feel stuck, either karate chop your arm down or rest your forearm on your thigh. It's going to be contingent upon your hip staying low. Now your top arm can stay out like a T, or drop your top arm, swing it out and forward, out and up over your head, and we get extended side angle pose. And breathe. Double check and correct your feet. Your front leg, shoulders down. You're trying to turn a little more toward the ceiling. 3, 2, 1. Come up to warrior two. Straighten your front leg and drop your arms. Good work. Let's switch sides. Turn the front leg out 90 degrees. Hands to your hips. Inhale. As you exhale, bend your front leg. When your legs feel set, bring your arms up overhead. Turn your hands out. Big inhale. Big exhale. Reach out over your front leg. However you treated the other side, treat this side. And breathe. If you remember during the warm-up, we felt a little stretch on the inner thigh of that rear leg. Same here. Try to feel a little stretch on the inside seam of your straight leg. Breathe here. 3, 2, 1. Come up to warrior two. Straighten your front leg and drop your arms. Nice work. Let's see if we can waddle or toe heel our feet about hip width apart. Double check and correct everything, please. Last mountain pose of the day. Tuck your pelvis, toned legs, shoulders down, shoulder blades towards your spine. Big breath in. Big breath out. One more inhale. One more exhale. And release. Nice work. Let's come to a seated position any way you can, as gracefully as you can. We'll focus a little bit on yogic breathing. We'll focus a little bit on a spinal twist. And then we'll see what happens after that. Now, a funny thing happened the other day. True story. I finally understood why sitting in this position helps you sit upright so much easier. And it's just the mechanics of the position. Your knees are lower than your hips. When your hips are higher than your knees, it helps free up your low back. Maybe your glutes a little bit to help you sit up taller. You don't have to sit like this. Even if you sit in a chair, even if you sit cross-legged, getting your hips up a little higher than your knees will facilitate an upright position. Now, however you've chosen to sit, double check and make sure your hips are more or less even. Try not to let your hips roll one way or the other. The next step is to extend your spine. Just like we do in rearward shift, really trying to lift and extend your spine. That helps open up the rib cage. That helps facilitate the contraction of the diaphragm, arguably the most important muscle in the human body. Because without the diaphragm, we're not going to be breathing. And if we're not breathing, we're not going to be living. So really get the diaphragm out there so we can breathe. Place your hands on your thighs. With your eyes open or closed, inhale through your nose. Exhale through your nose. Let's try to inhale for 5 seconds. Ready? Go. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And breathe normal. Now, as we move on to the seated twist, do your best to hold on to that cadence of breathing. Somewhere in the realm of 5 to 6 seconds in and 5 to 6 seconds out. And this came up recently. I thought it was a pretty good question. What does 6 seconds in, what does that mean? Well, what it means is you try to smoothly inhale evenly for 6 seconds. And then exhale smoothly for 6 seconds. It does not mean inhale for 1 second and then try to top it off for the next 5 seconds and then exhale and try to top that off for the next 6 seconds. It's not that. It was a good question. Inhale smoothly for 5 even seconds and exhale smoothly for 5 even seconds. Let's try spinal twist. Inhale. Lift your chest. Expand your ribs. As you exhale, turn to your left. Keep your ribs up. Turn to your left. When you feel stuck, just place your hands somewhere just to hold you in place. And breathe. 5 seconds in smoothly. 5 or 6 seconds out smoothly. See if you can turn a little more on that exhale. Inhale. Exhale. See if you can turn a little bit more on that exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more inhale. One more exhale. And about as slowly as possible, unwind. Nice. Take a breath or two. Just see how you feel. Good, bad, happy, or sad. There's no right or wrong. If you're in a cross-legged position, switch the crisscross of your shins. Double check your hips, double check your spine. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, turn to your right. Stay extended. And continue 5 seconds in. 5 seconds out. See if you can turn a little more on that exhale. Even if you get stuck, which will happen, imagine in your brain that you're still turning, still extending, still breathing. One more inhale. One more exhale. And gently unwind about as slowly as possible. Both hands to your knees, or wherever your hands feel comfortable. And feel the effects of that yoga posture, that yoga pose. Good. As gracefully as possible, let's sit lengthwise on the mat. If it feels like you need to shake out your legs, please shake out your legs. If you feel good to go, you don't necessarily have to shake out your legs. That's also fine. Let's leave our left leg straight and let's pull our right heel as high as we can into the left thigh. So your right knee is bent as much as it can be. Your left leg is as straight as possible. Now, from this position, we're trying to get our shoulders over our hips. That's kind of like phase one. We don't want to be really super leaned back and slouched. If you're hunched over like this, you have to get something under your hips to get your hips higher than your knees so you can actually sit up tall. So first goal, sit up tall, keep your shoulders over your hips. Left leg straight, left toes pulled back. Second goal is to try to extend your spine. This is, you're lifting your chest up just like we do in the rearward shift. You're trying to get your chest bone up and out while keeping your shoulder more or less over your hip. If it feels impossible, chances are you've got to get your hips up high. Even if you wind up sitting in a chair and kind of leaning forward over the chair or leaning forward toward the ground, your hips will be really high and your feet will be really low. But whatever it's going to take to try to get that left leg straight, right knee bent and chest up. From here, if it's possible, place both hands somewhere on the ground. And now we're just going to work isometrically, pushing the hands into the ground, lifting the chest, and pushing both knees into the ground. Here we go. Inhale, exhale, and begin to work. You're trying to lift your chest, and you're trying to press both knees into the ground. Go slowly and gradually at first. And you're gradually just kind of ramping up the muscle contraction. Now, because you're pushing against an immovable force, whether it's your own structure or whether it's the ground, you're building strength. It's a form of internal resistance or slightly external if you're pressing against the ground. You don't need weights to gain strength. You just need time under tension and time under load. One more inhale, one more exhale, and relax. Slowly release. Good. And we'll switch sides. This time the right leg is straight. The left foot comes up as high as it can into the thigh of the right leg. Shoulders over the hips. Shoot for that first. Next thing is to extend the spine while keeping your shoulder over your hips. Hands to the ground. Inhale. As you exhale, use your muscles. Push into the earth. So you're pushing your shoulders down. Pushing into the earth. Pressing into the mat. And you're trying to push both knees into the mat. So you're really using the quadriceps on the straight leg, and you're using the abductors on the bent leg. Breathe. Keep trying to lift the chest. Keep trying to push into the earth with your shoulders, through your arms, through your hands. Press your knees into the ground through your quadriceps and through your side hip muscles, outside hip muscles. One more inhale. One more exhale. And release. Good. Both legs straight, please. Shake out any residual tension you may feel. And let's lie flat on our backs, please. Any old way you can. Just nice and easy. Knees towards your torso. Hips square, spine straight, shoulders square. If it's possible, keep your knees right here. Don't let your knees go anywhere. Use your abs muscles to keep your knees in place. If you can gaze up here, watch for a second. When I held onto my knees with my hands, my knees were here. If I let go, I try to keep my knees here. If I let go, my knees shouldn't drop. Okay? So hold on to your knees or hold on under your knees. Be as honest as possible and bring your knees up as high as they can go comfortably. Use your abs muscles. Keep your knees in place. Don't let your knees move. Interlace your fingers behind your head. Inhale. As you exhale, use your abs muscles. Lift your skull, lift your chin, and you lift a little bit of your shoulder blades off the ground. Now, believe it or not, you can stay here and hold here. This is another form of isometrics. You'll start to shake. I'm starting to shake. And you're developing strength here, called yielding isometrics. If you want to make it more dynamic, keep your knees still. Inhale. As you exhale, try to bring your left armpit to your right knee. Inhale back to center. Exhale, right armpit, left knee. Back to center. And repeat that a few times. The goal is to keep your knees still. You're using your lower abs muscles to keep yourself in a posterior pelvic tilt. You're using your hip flexors to keep your knees fixed. And then you're using your rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis in order to flex and twist your torso. So in other words, full core exercise. One more inhale, one more exhale, back to center, hold on to your knees and lie back. You can hold on under your knees if you like as well. Just keep your hips square, spine straight. Now one at a time, we'll let one foot touch the ground, then the other foot touch the ground. Both hands touch the ground, palms down. Try to get your heels as close to your seat as possible. We're shooting for a glute bridge here. Knees toward the ceiling, feet point forward. Everything's about hip width apart, more or less. Palms flat, touching the ground. Inhale. As you exhale, perform a Kegel contraction. Pull your pelvic floor up into your body. It's as if you're trying to stop yourself from urinating. Pull all those muscles up. Now while you're pulling those muscles up, tuck your pelvis. Just like we did in the abs exercise, posterior pelvic tilt. Now keeping all those contractions locked up, keeping your torso stiff from your collarbone to your pubic bone. Inhale. As you exhale, push with your feet and get your hips up. One piece, one piece. And breathe. Now once you've achieved liftoff, squeeze your glutes as tight as you can. Really squeeze them toward each other and really try to get a posterior pelvic tilt going. Nudge the limits a little bit here. It's not comfortable. It's not fun. Do you think I'm having fun right now? But it's necessary in order to get the tone and the strength and the function of the hips and the low back. So we have to go to these uncomfortable realms, sometimes 30, 60, 90 seconds at a time. But we have to nudge those limits. If we always go where it feels comfortable, we're not growing. Now we don't have to go into pain, we don't have to grind our teeth, blood doesn't have to come out of your ears. But if we nudge just a little bit every time, push just a tiny bit harder, our growth will be exponential. One more inhale. Nudge just a little harder, squeeze just a little tighter. As you exhale, stay braced, lower down one piece. Nice work. Hopefully you felt that in your glutes. One last time. Bring your knees up towards your torso. Steady breathing. Deep breathing. Let one foot touch the ground. Let the other foot touch the ground. Let one leg go straight. Let the other leg go straight, flat on the ground. If you want to, just kind of wag your feet side to side. Similar in scope to the heel-toe joint mobility we do during class. Make sure that your knees are rolling in and out as well. It's not just your feet flopping around. Your whole leg should internally and externally rotate. And that's going to help free up your hips, your hip flexors, your hip extensors. Might even help free up your low back a little bit. Bring your hands by your side, palms face up. Close your eyes and become very still, please. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your nose. And let's be quiet for about 1 minute. Keep your eyes closed as we start to come back. Wake up your toes and wake up your fingers. Roll your ankles and roll your wrists. Just start to breathe again. Breathe normally. In and out through your nose. And one more time, we'll bring our knees up towards our chest. And just make yourself kind of flat on the mat. Hips square, shoulders square, spine straight. Put a big smile on your face and let's roll over to one side. Make a little pillow with your hands. That's right. Just keep smiling, just keep breathing. Just keep absorbing all the many benefits of your yoga practice, the physical, the mental, the energetic. If you want to stay here, stay here. Otherwise, we'll come up to a seated position as drama-free as possible. Try not to rattle your nervous system too much. Double check and correct your hips. Extend your spine. Palms touch. Thumbnails to your chest bone. With your eyes open or closed, let's take a deep inhale. Deep exhale. Namaste.